Welcome to the Futuristic Adventures story. Here you find the best HFY story written by human. Listen the story. If you like it, subscribe the
A
channel.
dimly lit, bustling marketplace sits on the outskirts of Kath, a crumbling city that barely clings to life. Neon signs flicker in the distance, casting pale blue light over the dark alleys. The air smells faintly of oil and something else. Something metallic. Floating platforms zip overhead, their low hum blending into the background noise of trader street vendors and the occasional distant explosion from a war zone. No one talks about Raviel walks through the market, blending in with the crowd. They pull their hood down, trying to avoid attracting attention. The dust on the ground swirls around their boots as they carefully maneuver past clusters of strange creatures haggling for goods. Raviel doesn't belong here, but they don't belong anywhere really. They're just a wanderer, a drifter who's seen too many planets and too many strange things. They don't need anyone. Raviel's hand hovers near the hilt of their weapon, a thin curved blade that could slice through metal with ease. They've learned to stay alert in places like this. Marketplace is never just a marketplace. It's always a place for deals, shady figures, and things going wrong. Suddenly, a loud crash rings out, and Raviel is jolted from their thoughts. They turn just in time to see something or someone fall out of thin air. A humanoid figure drops from nowhere, slamming into a pile of crates nearby. With a loud grunt, Raviel freezes. This is unusual. Kath doesn't get visitors like this. No one teleports in, at least not without the city's armed enforcers getting involved. But there's no time to dwell on it. Raviel instinctively moves toward the fallen figure, their hand now gripping the blade hilt. In anticipation, the figure groans and slowly pushes themselves up. It's a woman. No, not quite. There's something almost otherworldly about her. Her skin is a muted shade of violet, and her eyes glow faintly green. Her hair floats around her face as though it's caught in an unseen wind. Her clothes are ragged, glowing faintly, their fabric seeming to shift as if it's not entirely made of solid matter. Her lips curl into a tight, exhausted smile as she looks up at Raviel. Raviel stares at her, trying to process what they're seeing. What the hell are you? I'm sorry, the woman cuts in, gasping as she sits up, fully still, disoriented. I wasn't supposed to land here, not like this. Raviel raises an eyebrow. This doesn't make sense. There's no such thing as a teleportation mishap without serious consequences. They take a step closer, still wary, but now more curious than afraid. What happened? Raviel asks, their tone a little colder than usual. Who are you? The woman looks up at Raviel with wide, almost pleading eyes. She's clearly trying to gather her thoughts, but something is off. There's a sense of urgency that makes her seem out of place in the relaxed chaos of the marketplace. Jantra, she manages between breaths. And I need your help now. Raviel narrows their eyes. Help? I'm no one's hero. Dra's expression falters for a moment, as though something more complex is going on beneath the surface. She exhales sharply, her eyes flitting nervously around the marketplace. You've seen me unclothed. She pauses, noticing Raviel's confused expression. Physically, but you've seen me unprotected. Raviel's confusion only deepens. What the hell are you talking about? Chantra looks down at her hands, which are shaking slightly. You don't understand. I wasn't supposed to be exposed. Not like this exposed. You just fell out of the sky. What does that even mean? Her eyes flicker with a sharp, desperate panic as she looks up. If they see us together, now we're both dead. Raviel doesn't respond immediately. This is getting too strange. Jantra seems like she's not entirely human, definitely not from around here. But there's no time for this nonsense. The marketplace is still bustling, and the distant sounds of sirens can be heard in the distance, getting louder. Raviel's hand tightens on their blade. Who's going to kill us? Raviel demands, their voice calm but firm. Dra's face goes pale. She takes a step back, almost as if she's considering running, but her feet seem to be rooted to the ground. She looks up again, directly into Raviel's eyes. There's no more hiding. What's going on here? The Galactic Tribunal and their enforcers, she whispers. The moment she pauses. The moment we are discovered, they will execute us. Raviel recoils slightly, their thoughts racing. Galactic Tribunal, that's high-level serious business. If what Jantra says is true, Then they're already deep into something dangerous, something that could get them both killed. How Raviel demands, why Drek eyes dart nervously to the darkened edges of the marketplace, where the shadows seem to pulse with malice. It's a law of my people, she says, her voice low. If someone from another species, someone who isn't part of the council, sees me in an exposed state, they must either marry me, or both of us will be executed. Marry you, Raviel repeats. Baffled is that some kind of joke. Dra's expression is deadly serious. It's not a joke, it's the law. It's a ritual of sorts, a bond, a form of protection. If we're married, they can't kill us. If we're not, they'll wipe us out and erase all traces of our existence. Raviel stares at her for a moment, disbelief playing on their face. This is insane. A marriage to someone they don't even know, to someone who just fell from the sky. Before Raviel can respond, they hear the unmistakable hum of hovering ships above them, the sound of something approaching. Dra's head snaps toward the noise, and Raviel immediately senses the shift. In the air, something is wrong. The energy in the market has changed. Everyone is getting tense, aware of the same threat, but no one dares speak about it. No one dares look in their direction. Raviel grips their blade tighter instinctively, scanning the sky. I don't know what game you're playing, but if you think I'm marrying you, Drek eyes are wide with panic now. If we don't, we'll both die. Before Raviel can protest further, the ships above them grow louder, and several black-robed figures begin descending from the sky, their dark silhouettes cutting through the dim light of the market. The enforcers have arrived. Dra's voice drops to a desperate whisper. They're here. The once bustling marketplace, now eerily quiet, feels like it's holding its breath. Raviel's pulse races as the black-robed figures descend like ominous shadows from above, their cloaks rippling against the wind. The air is thick with tension, every passing moment amplifying the urgency of Dra's words. The market's chatter fades into the background, and all that's left is the loud thump of boots hitting the cracked stone beneath them. The figures that land are humanoid in shape, but their movements are unnatural, too precise, too robotic. Their faces are concealed behind dark visors that reflect the faint glow of the neon signs, adding an extra layer of menace to their appearance. They don't speak, they don't need to. The heavy silence surrounding them says everything. Raviel grips their blade tighter, ready to react, but they're not sure what to do. They've been in tight spots before, but this is different. There's something more methodical about these enforcers, something chilling. One of the enforcers steps forward, their boots scraping against the pavement as they make their way toward Jantra. Raviel doesn't flinch, but every muscle in their body is ready to spring into action. Jantra stands frozen, her violet skin now paler than before, her eyes darting nervously from one enforcer to the next. It's clear she's trying to hide the panic that's threatening to break through. Finally, the enforcer closest to her speaks, their voice low and mechanical, like a voice module strained through static. Enforcer, when you have been exposed, Genter of the Eth Council, you are in violation of the Intergalactic Marriage Code. Proceed with the bond immediately or face immediate termination. Raviel's brow furrows as they try to process what they're hearing. The marriage code. Was Chantra serious about this whole thing, or was this just some bizarre game? But the more they look at these enforcers, at the cold, calculating way they move, the more Raviel realizes this isn't a joke. The stakes are real. Jantra glances at Raviel quickly, almost as if seeking permission to speak. There's no time for hesitation now. Jantra urgently, Raviel, you have to understand, they won't just kill us. They'll erase us entirely, our memories, our existence. Everything will be wiped from every timeline. No one will remember who we were. Raviel shake their head in disbelief. Erase us? You're telling me these things can just erase people from history? Jantra nods, her eyes wide with fear. The enforcers seem to hover, waiting, like they're watching for any hint of resistance. Enforcer 1 sternly, you are out of time. Complete the marriage bond, or we will initiate the process. Raviel flicks their eyes over to the enforcers' hands. They're holding strange glowing devices that pulse with an unnatural light, maybe some kind of weapon. It's clear that whatever these people are, they're not here for a friendly chat. Raviel stepping in front of Jantra, narrowing their eyesol. Right, all right, fine. How do we do this? What kind of ceremony is this? Jantra looks momentarily stunned by Raviel's response, but she doesn't hesitate. She pulls something out of her pocket, an intricately carved glowing crystal, and presses it into Raviel's palm. Jantra, whispering, "This is the bonding crystal. It links our essences together, our life forces. Once you activate it, the bond will be complete." Raviel, skeptical, looking at the crystal. "You're asking me to just hold a glowing rock and what, get married?" Dra's eyes flicker nervously, as though she knows how ridiculous this sounds, but also knows it's their only chance. Jantra urgently, "We don't have time to debate this. If we don't marry now, they will activate the Eraser Protocol and will be completely wiped out. I'm not asking for a wedding, Raviel. I'm asking you to help me survive." Raviel looks down at the glowing crystal in their hand. It's warm, almost alive. They glance at the enforcers, whose eyes are hidden behind their black visors, but whose posture suggests they're getting impatient. They don't have a choice. Raviel, gritting their teeth, "Fine. But this is insane." Jantra, relieved, "Just hold it, please." In a swift motion, Raviel activates the crystal. It pulses with energy, vibrating slightly in their palm. Jantra closes her eyes, her hand hovering just above the crystal, as though to steady herself. There's a soft hum, almost like a whisper in the air, and for a moment the world seems to hold still. Suddenly, there's a loud click from the enforcers. Enforcer 1, coldly, "Marriage ceremony and initiated proceeding with termination if bond is up." Before Raviel can protest further, the ships above them grow louder, and several black-robed figures begin descending from the sky, their dark silhouettes cutting through the dim light of the market. The enforcers have arrived. Dra's voice drops to a desperate whisper. They're here. The once bustling marketplace, now eerily quiet, feels like it's holding its breath. Ravel's pulse races as the black-robed figures descend like ominous shadows from above, their cloaks rippling against the wind. The air is thick with tension, every passing moment amplifying the urgency of Dra's words. The market's chatter fades into the background, and all that's left is the loud thump of boots hitting the cracked stone beneath them. The figures that land are humanoid in shape, but their movements are unnatural, too precise, too robotic. Their faces are concealed behind dark eras that reflect the faint glow of the neon signs, adding an extra layer of menace to their appearance. They don't speak. They don't need to. The heavy silence surrounding them says everything. Raviel grips their blade tighter, ready to react, but they're not sure what to do. They've been in tight spots before, but this is different. There's something more methodical about these enforcers, something chilling. One of the enforcers steps forward, their boots scraping against the pavement as they make their way toward Jantra. Raviel doesn't flinch, but every muscle in their body is ready to spring into action. Jantra stands frozen, her violet skin now paler than before, her eyes darting nervously from one enforcer to the next. It's clear she's trying to hide the panic that's threatening to break through. Finally, the enforcer closest to her speaks, their voice low and mechanical, like a voice module strained through static. Enforcer 1, "You have been exposed. Jantra of the F Council. You are in violation of the Intergalactic Marriage Code. Proceed with the bond immediately or face immediate termination." Raviel's brow furrows as they try to process what they're hearing. The marriage code. Was Jantra serious about this whole thing, or was this just some bizarre game? But the more they look at these enforcers, at the cold, calculating way they move, the more Raviel realizes this isn't a joke. The stakes are real. Jantra glances at Raviel quickly, almost as if seeking permission to speak. There's no time for hesitation now. Jantra urgently, "Raviel, you have to understand, they won't just kill us. They'll erase us entirely. Our memories, our existence, everything will be wiped from every timeline. No one will remember who we were." Raviel shaking their head in disbelief. "Erase us? You're telling me these things can just erase people from history?" Jantra nods, her eyes wide with fear. The enforcers seem to hover, waiting, like they're watching for any hint of resistance. Enforcer 1, sternly, "You are out of time. Complete the marriage bond, or we will initiate the process." Raviel flicks their eyes over to the enforcer hands. They're holding strange glowing devices that pulse with an unnatural light, maybe some kind of weapon. It's clear that whatever these people are, they're not here for a friendly chat. Raviel stepping in front of Jantra, narrowing their eyesol, Right, all right, fine. How do we do this? What kind of ceremony is this? Jantra looks momentarily stunned by Raviel's response, but she doesn't hesitate. She pulls something out of her pocket, an intricately carved glowing crystal, and presses it into Raviel's palm. Jantra, whispering, "This is the bonding crystal. It links our essences together, our life forces. Once you activate it, the bond will be complete." Raviel, skeptical, looking at the crystal. "You're asking me to just hold a glowing rock and what, get married?" Dra's eyes flicker nervously, as though she knows how ridiculous this sounds, but also knows it's their only chance. Jantra urgently, "We don't have time to debate this. If we don't marry now, they will activate the Eraser Protocol, and we be completely wiped out. I'm not asking for a wedding, Raviel. I'm asking you to help me survive." Raviel looks down at the glowing crystal in their hand. It's warm, almost alive. They glance at the enforcers, whose eyes are hidden behind their black visors, but whose posture suggests they're getting impatient. They don't have a choice. Raviel, gritting their teeth, "Fine. But this is insane." Jantra, relieved, "Just hold it, please." In a swift motion, Raviel activates the crystal. It pulses with energy, vibrating slightly in their palm. Jantra closes her eyes, her hand hovering just above the crystal, as though to steady herself. There's a soft hum, almost like a whisper in the air, and for a moment the world seems to hold still. Suddenly, there's a loud click from the enforcers. Enforcer 1, coldly, "Marriage ceremony initiated, proceeding with termination if bond is not confirmed in 30 seconds. Raviel looks down at Jantra, who's standing a little straighter now, the weight of the moment hitting her. She looks at Raviel with wide, almost apologetic eyes. Jantra, barely above a whisper, "I'm sorry for dragging you into this." Raviel stiffens, but there's a flicker of something in them, something close to understanding. It's clear that Jantra didn't choose this path. She's in the same boat. They're both trapped now, but for the first time, Raviel feels a strange sense of duty. Maybe it's the urgency in Juri's eyes, or maybe it's the enforcers closing in on them like a storm. Raviel mutters, "This better not be the weirdest thing I've done today." The glowing crystal in their hand flares with sudden intensity, sending a wave of energy through the air. Jantra steps closer, and as their palms meet over the crystal, the bond solidifies. There's a snap, a tangible connection that reverberates through their bodies like a spark that links their very souls. The enforcers step back, as if acknowledging the ceremony is complete, but Raviel doesn't feel any different. They're still trapped, still in the middle of this insane situation, but at least for the moment they've survived. For now, Enforcer 2, flatly, bond confirmed, proceeding with secondary protocols. Jantra to Raviel, breathless, "It's not over. The marriage may have saved us for now, but they're going to try something else, something worse." Raviel looks at her, still trying to catch their breath. "Something worse? How is that even possible?" The enforcers step forward. Again, their movements precise, calculated. Enforcer 1, prepare for the second phase of the bond. "You will comply, or you will be executed." The tension crackles in the air as the enforcers raise their devices, their final words hanging heavy in the space between them. Raviel and Jantra are caught in the web. Now there's no going back. This section dives deeper into the situation, adding more urgency and tension, while also laying the foundation for the strange bond that's formed between Raviel and Jantra. The stakes are raised, and now they're not just fighting for survival. They're entangled in a cosmic mess of laws and rituals. They barely understand the era outside the marketplace is cooler, though the sense of urgency hasn't waned. The loud hum of hovering ships and the distant buzz of city life seem miles away from the isolated alley where Raviel and Jantra now stand. The alley is dimly lit by flickering street lights, casting long shadows against the cracked stone walls. The only sounds are their breathing and the distant sounds of the city, but even that feels too quiet now, like everything is holding its breath. Jantra is pacing nervously, her glowing robes flickering with anxious energy. She keeps glancing over her shoulder, expecting the black-robed enforcers to appear at any moment. Raviel, on the other hand, is leaning against the wall, arms crossed, trying to make sense of what just happened. The crystal is still in their hand, and even though the ceremony is over, there's a lingering pulse of energy in their veins, almost like it's embedded in their very being. Now Raviel takes a deep breath and turns to face Jantra. "All right, what now?" Jantra stops pacing finally meeting Raviel's gaze. There's a flicker of something in her eyes, a combination of gratitude and frustration, as if she's both relieved and overwhelmed. She exhales sharply, running a hand through her floating hair. Jantra quietly, almost regretfully, "We need to lay low. The enforcers will be watching for us, and they'll know we're not properly bonded. The marriage was just a stopgap." Raviel: "It's not the end of this." Rapal eyebrow raised: "A stopgap? You mean you've been lying about the whole you'll die if we don't marry thing?" Jantra sharply: "No, I wasn't lying. If the marriage bond hadn't been initiated, they would have erased us both completely, but the tribunal has its own laws." Raviel: "The bond is just the first part of a much bigger ritual. They'll expect us to complete it properly." Raviel, confused: "Complete it? What does that even mean?" "You're talking about marriage like it's some kind of contract." Jantra sighs, looking away. "Because it is. It's not just a bond between two people. It's a political and spiritual ritual, a binding of our essences in the eyes of the tribunal. We're now joined, but it's not real until we undergo the final stage." Raviel, leaning forward, narrowing their eyes. "And what's the final stage?" Jantra hesitates, clearly reluctant to explain, but she knows there's no avoiding it now. Raviel has seen too much, and they're both in this together, whether they like it or not. Jantra: "Finally, it's a public declaration. We need to do this in front of witnesses, a crowd, preferably in a neutral zone where the tribunal's laws are enforced. There's a place called the Nexus Arena ceremonial ground just outside the city. If we make the declaration there, we'll be officially bound." Raviel, skeptical: "So we're supposed to just show up at some arena, say 'I do,' and everything's fine? No more death squads hunting us down?" Jantra urgently: "Not exactly. The declaration won't save us completely. We'll still be under their watch. The tribunal is powerful." Raviel: "They'll be monitoring us, but at least for the time being we'll be safe as long as we play along." Raviel, gritting their teeth: "Play along?" They rub the back of their neck, trying to make sense of it. "You've got to be kidding. So we're supposed to pretend to be married and go through a fake ceremony just to survive?" Jantra, nodding: "Yes, but it's not entirely fake. The bond is real, at least to the tribunal. It's a union, and in the eyes of the law we'll be seen as a legitimate couple." Raviel: "Dry. And we're supposed to be okay with this? I don't even know you." Jantra pauses, looking down: "I know I didn't want any of this, but it's the only option we have right now." Raviel stands in silence for a moment, processing everything. It feels like the ground is shifting beneath them. They didn't ask for any of this. They didn't ask to get tangled up in some alien marriage ritual, but at this point, there's no turning back. They can't fight the entire tribunal, not without more information, more resources, more allies. Right now they've got nothing but their wits, their weapon, and the strange woman standing before them." Raviel sighed deeply, running a hand through their hair. "So what now?" "We just march into this Nexus Arena, announce to the universe we're officially met, married, and hope for the best." Jantra, a little more hopeful: "It's our best shot, but we'll have to move quickly. They'll come for us, both the enforcers and the tribunal's other agents. And trust me, Raviel, this isn't just about surviving. There's something bigger at stake here. The tribunal, they don't just control life and death. They control fate." Raviel, puzzled: "Fate?" Jantra looks at Raviel, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then, without warning, she takes a step closer, her voice dropping to a whisper: "Jantra, if we don't complete the bond properly, they won't just erase us. They'll erase everything, everyone we've ever known. Everything we've ever done. Our memories, our existence will be rewritten. The whole timeline will be adjusted." Raviel feels a chill creep up their spine. "You're tell me the tribunal can rewrite history?" Jantra nods. "Not just history, everything. The tribunal's influence is that far-reaching. They are the architects of time itself." Raviel: "If they choose, they can undo everything. They can make it as though we never existed." Raviel, eyes widening: "And we're supposed to just what? Let them do that?" Dra's expression darkens, and she steps away, the weight of her words hanging in the air like a cloud of dread. She's not just talking about survival anymore. There's a bigger game at play, and Raviel is trapped in it, whether they want to be or not. Jantra: "I didn't want to drag you into this." Raviel: "I didn't ask for this either, but we have to keep moving forward. The tribunal won't stop until they have complete control over us, over everything. And if we're going to get out of this alive, we have to make sure we're playing by their rules." Ravi, staring at her: "Fine. But after we're done, you and me no more of this marriage nonsense, got it? Jantra softly. I understand. The air feels thick now, as if the weight of their words has created a new bond between them, one that isn't just about survival anymore. They're stuck in this strange cosmic situation together, and whether they like it or not, they'll have to rely on each other. Raviel, pulling their hood up, steeling themselves. All right, let's get to this Nexus arena, and let's make sure we survive. Chantra looks at Raviel and nods, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and something else, something unspoken. She knows this isn't easy, and they're both walking into the unknown, but they don't have much of a choice. The city of Kath stretches out before them, a sprawling mass of crumbling buildings, neon lights, and rusted metal. The night air is thick with smog, the faint glow of distant fires painting the sky with a fiery orange hue. The faint hum of hovercrafts zipping through the air mixes with the distant sound of explosions, a reminder that the city is far from peaceful. Raviel and Jantra are moving quickly, blending into the shadows as they weave through narrow alleyways. The marketplace is far behind them, but they both know they're not safe yet. Every step they take, they're closer to the Nexus arena, but every moment is a risk. The enforcers could be tracking them. The tribunal could be one step behind, watching, waiting. Jantra leads the way, her violet skin glowing faintly in the darkness. She's a walking target, but she moves with purpose, every glance back filled with the weight of her urgency. Raviel, however, stays alert, their hand resting on the hilt of their weapon as they walk silently behind her. Despite the urgency, their mind is racing. The more they learn, the less sense this whole situation makes. The tribunal time controllers erasing existence. It sounds like something out of a bad science fiction novel, yet here they are in the middle of it, stuck with a strange woman they barely know and a mysterious bond they don't understand. Raviel quietly, so tell me more about this Nexus arena. What makes it so special? And why do we have to go there? Jantra glances over her shoulder, her expression strange. She's clearly trying to keep her nerves in check, but she's been on edge since the moment the enforcers first appeared, and now more than ever she seems like she's running on pure instinct. Jantra, the Nexus arena is a neutral ground somewhere the tribunal can't easily manipulate. They hold public ceremonies. They're often for high-ranking officials, or for important rituals like the one we're going to complete. It's the only place we can leave legally, finish the bond without drawing too much suspicion, but it's also a place of power, a place where the tribunal's laws are enforced. Once we're there, we'll be under their jurisdiction, completely. Raviel, squinting. Under their jurisdiction? You make it sound like we're just signing up for a lifetime of surveillance. Jantra sharply. More than that, it's a system of checks and balances. But it also means we're not in control anymore. The tribunal's agents will be watching us. If we falter in any way, they'll execute us, not just for breaking the law, but for potentially disrupting the timeline. Raviel, gritting their teeth. Great. We're not just avoiding death. Now we have to worry about the time police coming after us. Dra's eyes narrow. There's a deeper concern in her gaze, one that Raviel hasn't seen before. She's not just scared of the tribunal. She's scared of what could happen if they failed. Jantra quietly, it's not just the tribunal, Raviel, it's the whole system. They don't just control laws, they control fate. Every timeline, every reality they've touched, we're just pieces on their board, caught in the web they've spun. If we're caught trying to escape, or even fail at the bond, everything we've ever known will be rewritten. Not just our lives, but the lives of everyone we've ever interacted with. Our very existence will be erased. Nothing will remain. The weight of her words hangs in the air, and for a brief moment Raviel feels a cold chill race down their spine. This isn't just about surviving anymore. If what Jantra says is true, they're not only fighting for their lives, they're fighting to preserve everything they've ever known. A future without memory, without history, is worse than death itself. Raviel, staring ahead, voice low. So what happens once we get to this arena? Do we just stand there, hold hands, and pray the tribunal buys it? Jantra looks at Raviel, her face serious. She's no longer the panicked, confused figure who stumbled into court just hours ago. There's a strength in her now, something deeper than fear. The bond is real for her now, and whether Raviel wants to admit it or not, it's starting to feel real for them too. Jantra, no, we'll have to make a formal declaration. There will be witnesses, both Tribunal agents and other witnesses who enforce the ritual. The final part of the bond happens in front of them. If we're successful, they'll declare us officially married in their eyes, and the tribunal will no longer have jurisdiction over us. For now, Raviel frowning. For now, Jantra softly. There are always more layers to the tribal's control, but if we make it through this, we'll have time to figure out what's really going on, time to understand the true nature of the bond and what they want with us. The weight of their situation presses on Raviel like a crushing force. They've come too far to turn back, and they know it. But Dra's words stir a new fear in them, a fear of something far greater than just the tribunal, the idea that they might be pawns in a game they can't comprehend, that they could be part of something that's so far-reaching it could reshape existence itself feels overwhelming. Suddenly, there's a sound behind them, a low mechanical hum. Raviel spins around, instincts kicking in as they draw their blade. Jantra freezes, her eyes wide with panic as the sound of hovering craft grows louder. Raviel urgently, we're being followed. Get to cover. They dive into a nearby alley, ducking behind a stack of crates just as a black hovercraft glides silently overhead. The Enforcer ship is unmistakable. Its dark silhouette contrasts against the dim sky as it hovers above them, scanning the ground below. Jantra whispering, they found us already. Raviel watches the ship, waiting for it to pass. The craft hovers above them for a few moments longer, and Raviel feels every second drag out in the silence. Finally, the craft moves off, its hum fading into the distance. Raviel exhales, slowly releasing a breath. They didn't realize they were holding. Raviel lowering their blade that was too close. Jantra shaky. They're watching us. They know we're on the move. Raviel cautiously. They won't stop until they have us, but if we keep moving, we might have a chance to make it to the Nexus arena before they catch up. They both stand cautious, making their way back into the alleyways. The urgency of their journey presses on them with every step. The Enforcers are out there, the tribunal is watching, and even if they make it to the Nexus arena, they know the fight isn't over, not by a long shot. Raviel grimly, Leighton, move. We don't have much time. Jantra nods, her eyes full of determination. They have no choice now but to keep going. The Nexus arena is ahead, but the real battle will begin once they arrive. What they don't know, what they can't know, is what happens after the bond is completed, and whether they'll be able to escape the tribunal's grasp before it's too late. The darkened streets of give way to a towering structure in the distance. The Nexus arena looms ahead like an ominous fortress, its jagged silhouette cutting into the starless sky. Massive holographic banners hang from the sides, advertising ceremonial events and tribunal declarations. The ground around the arena is slick with rain, reflecting the cold light of the city in shimmering pools of neon. It's a place of power, a place where deals are made and fates are sealed. As they approach, Raviel can't shake the feeling that they're walking into a trap, even though the path before them seems clear. The Nexus arena is an imposing structure, its heavy doors guarded by more Enforcers, silent figures in black who seem to appear from thin air, blending seamlessly into the shadows. Jantra moves with purpose, but Raviel notices the slight tension in her shoulders. The closer they get, the more she seems to withdraw into herself, her movement sharper, more deliberate. Raviel feels it too, an unease crawling under their skin, a nagging sensation that they're being watched. Even here, Raviel softly, is this the part where we walk in and get announced, where the whole arena cheers, and we have to pretend this is some kind of romantic fairy tale? Jantra shoots a glance at Raviel, her lips tight. She's clearly not in the mood for jokes. Jantra quietly, nothing about this is a fairy tale. This is a trial, Raviel, and there's no turning back. Once we step through those doors, they approach the enormous gates of the arena, flanked by tall statues of long-forgotten gods, their stone faces stern and judgmental. At the center of the gates stands a large floating hologram projecting the insignia of the tribunal, a symbol of an eye surrounded by concentric circles, the mark of absolute control over all that exists. A pair of Enforcers materialize from the shadows in front of them, their eyes glowing beneath their dark hoods. The sudden appearance of the figure sends a chill through Raviel's spine, but Jantra doesn't flinch, and for one, in a hollow voice, Jantra of the Eighth Council, Raviel of the Hidden Worlds, Welcome to the Nexus Arena, you are expected, Raviel under their breath. Great. Just what I wanted, a warm welcome. Jantra doesn't respond to Raviel's quip. Her face set in a grim expression, she steps forward, but Raviel hesitates, glancing at the enforcers who stand rigidly by the gates watching them with unnerving stillness. Raviel cautiously, so what's the catch? We walk in, say the vows, and everything goes according to the tribunal's plan. Jantra whispers almost to herself, there's always a catch. The tribunal doesn't just want us married, they want to control us. This is the final test. Once the bond is completed, we won't be who we were before. Raviel furrowing their brow. What does that mean? You're saying we won't even be ourselves anymore? Jantra eyes darkening. Exactly. The bond changes us. It connects us at a soul level, not just our bodies, not just our minds. They'll be able to influence us, manipulate us, bend our wills. The tribunal doesn't want just two people in a marriage. They want complete control over us. The words land heavily in the air, and Raviel feels a flicker of panic deep within them. They didn't realize how much they were putting on the line just by stepping into this arena. It's not just their lives that are at stake anymore, it's their very selves, their very essence. The idea that the tribunal could reach into their souls and twist them like puppets is a chilling one. Raviel looking away. Great, so we're just their property now, and if we don't go through with it, if we don't play by their rules, Jantra with quiet determination, if we don't play by their rules, we die. And not just die, we disappear, erased from history, gone. The enforcers step aside wordlessly, allowing them to pass through the towering gates into the arena. The ground beneath their feet shifts from slick stone to smooth metallic flooring, glowing faintly under their boots. The vastness of the Nexus Arena unfolds before them. It's a circular space surrounded by tall, glowing columns that pulse with strange energy. The walls of the arena are lined with holographic screens showing endless streams of data, timelines, events, historical records, all manipulated and controlled by the tribunal. In the center of the arena stands a massive platform, raised above the ground, with two thrones positioned side by side. The tribunal officials, garbed in ceremonial robes, stand to the side, their faces hidden behind opaque visors. The audience, composed of various beings from different worlds, sits in complete silence, their eyes fixed on Raviel and Jantra. The air is thick with anticipation. Jantra stops at the edge of the platform, her voice barely audible. This is it. Raviel can feel their heart pounding in their chest, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. They don't know what to expect, but they can sense that this isn't just some show for the tribunal. This is their future, and the stakes have never been higher. The tribunal official in front of them finally speaks, his voice amplified by the arena's speakers, reverberating through the space like an unshakable command. Tribunal official booming. Jantra of the Eth Council, Raviel of the Hidden Worlds, you stand before the tribunal to complete your union. The marriage bond must be declared now. If you fail to declare yourselves before the tribune and witnesses, your existence will be voided. Will you accept your bond and pledge your essences to the tribunals? Will the weight of the question hangs in the air, an unspoken threat woven into the official's words. The audience waits in deathly silence, eyes trained on them, ready to judge. Jantra glances at Raviel, her hand trembling slightly as it reaches for theirs. It's the final step, the moment they both dreaded. There's no turning back. Jantra softly, we have to do this for us, for everything we've ever known. Raviel meets her gaze, and for the first time since they've been dragged into this mess, something stirs inside them. They don't know why they feel this strange pull toward Jantra, a feeling they can't quite explain, but one that's undeniable. Raviel nodding. All right, Lytton, do this, let's finish what we started. They step onto the platform together. The air hums with an unseen force, and the ground beneath them seems to vibrate with energy as the final stage of the bond begins. The tribunal watches, the crowd watches. Time seems to slow as Raviel and Jantra stand together, bound by a force greater than both of them, unaware of the consequences that await them. The arena is a living, breathing entity. Every pulse of energy in the air reverberates against Raviel and Jantra as they stand together on the raised platform. The audience is a sea of expectant faces, their eyes watching every movement with unblinking focus. The tribunal officials surround them in a semicircle, their robes flowing like dark waterfalls, their presence both a command and a warning. Raviel feels the weight of the situation pressing down on them. But beneath that weight, there's an undeniable spark, something that burns brighter than the fear and confusion that's plagued them up until now. Jorah's hand in theirs feels more real than ever before, as though something inside them is finally aligning like two puzzle pieces falling into place. The tribunal official in front of them raises an arm, and the holographic screens around the arena flicker. A new timeline is displayed, one where Raviel and Jorah's names are written in bold letters as if their very existence is being etched into the fabric of reality itself. Tribunal official booming, unyielding, declare your bond. Ravel of the hidden worlds, Gentra of the Eth Council. If you reject this union, your existence will be erased from time. If you accept, you will be bound to the tribunal's will for eternity. Choose wisely. The silence that follows is deafening. Raviel and Jantra stand side by side, their hands still clasped tightly together. Their eyes meet, and in that moment it's clear this isn't just about survival anymore. This is about taking control of their fates. This is their chance to carve out their own path, to defy the tribunal's expectations, and to reject their manipulation. Raviel takes a deep breath, their chest swelling with resolve. For the first time, they know exactly what to do. Raviel loudly, confidently, we reject the tribunal's control over us. We are not pawns in their game. We will not be bound by their laws, nor will we be erased from existence. We choose to live, to choose our own destiny. The words hang in the air for a long, heart-stopping moment. The arena is dead silent, the entire crowd seemingly holding their collective breath. Jorah's grip on Raviel's hand tightens, and for a moment it feels like the very ground beneath them is trembling. Then, unexpectedly, the tribunal's holographic screens flicker. Once again, the timeline that had once shown their names now glitches, distortion rippling through it like a shattered mirror. Raviel and Jantra watching shock as the symbols that once held them prisoner begin to fracture, the pieces falling apart in front of their eyes. It's as though the tribunal grip on time, on reality, is slipping, unraveling. Jantra whispering what's happening. Raviel turns to look at her, their eyes wide with realization. Raviel grinning, we're breaking free. The energy in the arena shifts suddenly, an immense wave of light and power pulsing outward from the center of the platform where they stand. The tribunal officials react in alarm, stepping back as the light swells, filling the entire arena with an overwhelming sense of liberation and possibility. Tribunal official frantic, no, this cannot be. But before the official can finish, the arena's control systems begin to short-circuit, and the holographic screens fade to black. The colossal power of the tribunal that had been looming over them like a storm cloud vanishes, dissolving into the air as if it had never existed. Raviel and Jantra are left standing on the platform, their hearts pounding, their minds racing, but feeling free in a way they never thought possible. Jantra looks at Raviel, her eyes wide with disbelief, and for the first time a smile spreads across her face, bright, genuine, and full of hope. Jantra, we did it, we're free. Raviel can hardly believe it themselves, but they know it's true. The tribunal no longer holds dominion over them. The bond they had feared, the chain they thought would bind them forever, Izone, gone. The very fabric of the timeline they once thought they were trapped in has unraveled. The crowd, once silent and rigid, begins to murmur. Then a ripple of applause spreads through the arena. Slowly, almost cautiously at first, beings from every corner of the universe rise to their feet, clapping. Some are tentative, unsure of what they've just witnessed. Others are filled with awe, as though they've just seen something impossible made real. Raviel looking at the crowd, what now? Jantra looking around, finally breathing freely. Now we live. The tribunal officials stand frozen, their eyes locked onto Raviel and Jantra with a mix of fury and confusion. But Raviel knows this isn't their fight anymore. The power has shifted. The tribunal has lost. Raviel pulls Jantra close, their eyes meeting in silent understanding. There's no more pretending, no more fear. This is their world now. They can create their own timeline. They can write their own future together. The energy in the arena begins to dissipate, the weight of it lifting from their shoulders. The once dominating presence of the tribunal is no longer a shadow hanging over them. They are free. They are finally free. Jantro, we may not have chosen the bond Raviel, but we chose each other Raviel we did. And now we get to choose everything as they step off the platform hand in hand. The crowd parts to let them through. They don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long while they don't need to. The weight of destiny is no longer theirs to bear. They have their freedom, and that's all that matters.